Welcome to the Halloween Horror Month. Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and today we are starting the Halloween Horror Month. Throughout the month of October you will see a lot of horror movie reviews on the channel. For this I picked a handful of classics that are very dear to my heart. Something that I grew up with, something that influenced me, something that I want you to check out as well if you haven't seen it already. And since Dennis the Bodymeister and I also do one Indian movie review each week, we thought it would be a great opportunity to talk about some horror films from India as well. And the third category are very recent horror films that I just saw at this year's Slash Film Festival here in Vienna. But the film I'm going to talk about today isn't new to me at all. This is not a new remake by director Luca Guadagnino, which I will probably see in a few weeks, but the classic Dario Argento film from 1977. When you think about the greatest movie openings of all time, there's a big chance that Star Wars will come to mind. And when was it released? In 1977. There was another pretty incredible film released in that year, and by pure coincidence, also one with a super impressive opening sequence. As a matter of fact, Argento has said his plan was to start his film in the way a normal horror movie would end. And he wasn't kidding with that, and because it is indeed such a unique opening, I want to delve a bit deeper into it now. Suspiria seems to be soaked in magic, and it already begins like a movie nightmare. The first names appear on a black background with loud drum beats. The title appears and the music falls silent for a moment, only to give way to a fairy tale chime.
Susie Banyan decided to perfect her ballet.
A narrator sets in and gives us a small introduction to the movie's story and our protagonist, Susie Banyan, who decided to follow up her studies of ballet at a famous academy in Germany. Then we find ourselves at an airport where at first glance it becomes clear that this is not an ordinary movie. Suspiria is a deeply expressive cult horror film, and from the beginning Argento tries everything to avoid a realistic image, most apparent in the colors, which could not be richer. Susie steps out of the gate and again the music, composed by the Italian band Goblin, puts us in a kind of trance that has something close to the supernatural. Susie passes the large glass sliding doors and enters the black rainy night. By taxi it goes through the black night, which isn't that black after all, because the roaring thunderstorm makes Susie's face lighten up in all kinds of colors again and again. Cool blues blend with rich reds that will accompany her through the entire movie. Argento reveals only fragments of the environment, brightly lit columns of water surrounded by darkness, the rows of lights in a tunnel, and everything is always surrounded by the raging rain. This is the beginning of a nightmarish odyssey, which becomes even clearer when the taxi drives through a forest and the word witch is chanted in the background music. Everything adds up to the sense of threat here. When Susie finally arrives at the academy, she's not let in, and now the perspective changes to a woman who has just fled from there. What then follows is so intense that it goes down to the mark. After a short run through the forest, it goes into a hotel that could hardly seem more unreal and abstract. Each surface is decorated by patterns, sometimes sharp and cutting, and sometimes round and swinging. Something seems to be watching the young woman, and when the window is suddenly torn open, Argento positioned his camera skillfully on the outside. Instead of going back inside, the camera moves away a bit further and gives an enormous sense of insecurity. Shortly thereafter it happens. The young woman is rewarded for her curiosity and finds a cruel death that is characterized by an enormous amount of style. An arm appears out of nowhere and grabs her head, presses her face against the glass until it cannot withstand the pressure and shatters. The sheer brutality of the music does the rest to make the audience lose its breath. In intermediate sections we see another woman who wants to draw attention with all her strength to the cruel process. She bangs against the doors, slumping in horror to the ground, and at no moment is there any hope that this will turn out well. I won't go into more detail about what's happening next, but let's say it is very graphical and surreal and just masterfully orchestrated. Pretty much all of Suspiria's most striking aspects and motifs are established in that first 15 minutes. I'm also pretty sure about one thing. If someone speaks about Suspiria, he probably won't highlight the average storyline, the half-baked dialogues, and the downright terrible acting at times. Instead, he will talk about form, color, art design, and music, all of which make this film a very sensual experience. Luciano Tovoli was the director of cinematography, and what he created with Argento is truly spellbinding. A great inspiration for this film stems from the Disney classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, whose colors had a fascinating effect on Argento. His goal was to transfer this from a cartoon to a real movie. To achieve it, the film was filmed normally on Kodak film and then subjected to an old Technicolor process, which increased the primary colors to a maximum. All colors should look as pure as possible and give the film a completely unrealistic tone that enhances the fairy tale motif. Equally important is the work of production designer Giuseppe Bassan, who created interior and exterior spaces that are very closely intertwined with the elements of the story. At the beginning of the story, we accompany Susie on a journey into a mysterious occult world, which is then expanded on until it comes to full fruition in an opaque, nightmarish labyrinth. The rooms in Suspiria are all kept very surreal. As before, the most important aspect here is color. The rooms are all very imaginatively designed, walls shine in rich tones, and almost everywhere are different patterns to be found. Walls have a deep texture, and backgrounds are sharply drawn. They stand out like the backgrounds in a picture book. Due to this excessive sharpness and the great effort that has been done in the production design, the rooms appear like small works of art. To sum it up, Argento uses color and space as a means of expressing fears and horror. If there's a criticism of Suspiria, it is probably the finale. While it is fascinating and eerie, it's also not as terrifying as the remarkable beginning of the film. As paradox as it may sound, but this flaw is already clear from the often used advertisement slogan of the film.
We're only seeing more terrifying than the last 12 minutes of Suspiria. For the first 92.
Which the other way around could also mean the last 12 minutes of the film aren't as terrifying and good as the first 90. And also, as I already mentioned, the acting is very peculiar here. It's an Italian film, and back in the day they often had a very international cast, meaning there were people who spoke English, Italian, French, German and so on. And it was normal procedure that pretty much everyone spoke in his or her native tongue, and for each language version some people were dubbed, while others could be heard in their original language. Which has an odd effect of course, but this was quite common back then. Now on top of that, Dario Argento was never a director known for his work with actors and actresses. He's all about style and creative and new ways of filming his story. He's known for very excessive violence, for bringing Freudian motifs to the screen, twists and turns, colors, music, all of the good stuff. But not really for good acting performances, and Suspiria is no exception. So keep that in mind when you check it out, which is something every fan of horror and genre film should absolutely do. With the remake coming out very soon, hopefully more people will become more aware of the original film. So in German I'd say, Dario Argentos Suspiria ist einer der ungewöhnlichsten und faszinierendsten Horrorfilme, die je gemacht worden sind. Ein einmaliger, albtraumhafter Farben-Höllentrip, der zwar durchaus die üblichen Argento-Probleme hat, aber einfach so wunderschön und expressiv ist, dass man seine Augen und Ohren nicht abwenden kann. I give Suspiria 8 out of 10. It's more like 8.2, but I don't do that.
Get out of here! Good riddance!
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Suspiria. And also let me know, are you familiar with the movies of Dario Argento, and if so, what is your favorite one? Until then, you can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram simply at The Jimmy Cage. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like, and make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.